Welcome everyone to our CMM free webinar entitled The Keys to Unlocking BSC Success, with the tagline, Innovative Business Strategies for Contract Cleaners. And you can see our panelists here, our experts. We'll talk about them in a few minutes, but we do want to say thank you to our sponsor, Aspire. And let's go ahead and move on and just talk a little bit about who we are and what we're doing today. So my name is Jeff Cross. I'm the moderator. I'm really the one just asking a few questions. Our three panelists will be sharing their expertise with you today. And this is part of the Cleaning and Maintenance Management Magazine presentation. And Cleaning and Maintenance Management Magazine is available in both print and digital at cmmonline.com. But it's not just us that you see on camera. Assisting today is Martha Schmidt. She's our events producer. She's the one running all the things you don't see and here to take care of us. And Jill values that, I'm sure, like I do. Yeah. And then Kathleen Misovic is our CMM managing editor. She's here with us as well, who will be looking at the questions and organizing everything behind the scenes. So that's what they'll be doing with us. Move on to our next point before we get started. I talked about this a bit, but since I did, we had some 10 more show up. So be sure to use the chat function to ask questions or to comment. We have the Q&A function as well. You can ask official questions that Kathleen will look and get that organized. We want to hear from you and have you engage with the webinar. And we'll go about an hour or so with the final 20 minutes, 15 or 20 minutes, the Q&A. When this is all done, one question we get all the time is, how do I get a copy of the recording? Well, that comes to you by email. If you registered for this webinar or you're here today, you'll get a copy of this. It'll also be on cmmonline.com, so it'll be available there as well. We want you to use this, though, not just for yourself, but share it with others. You could share it on social media, but with your team as well as you build your company. And don't worry about noise. You're muted, so just use the chat feature to talk to us and sit back and relax and enjoy. Want to invite everyone here who's not part of the ISSA family. We have a lot to offer you besides our media brands, many member benefits for everyone. So you could visit issa.com or email membership@issa.com to join our family. So if you're not a member, at least look into it and become part of our family. Before we move on to this webinar, I want to mention that next week, this same time, we have one about restoration. So you can see the information on your screen. And Martha, if we could put the link in our chat for this sometime in the next few minutes, everyone can click on that and register for that at your convenience. Or you can go to our events page as well. But this one is for restoration professionals to deal with their challenges. And if you're a contractor, building service contractor, and you don't do restoration, but you're thinking about it, this is a must attend. It'll help you with all those crazy issues that the industry faces sometimes. And now we'll have our first sponsor message. And again, we thank Aspire for this.
At Aspire Software, we know that when you're running a commercial cleaning company, it's important to have the right tools for the job. Aspire offers the end-to-end functionality you need to keep your entire business running smoothly and profitably. From estimating, scheduling, mobile time, and invoicing to real-time job costing and more. Aspire provides access to information from every area of your company and real-time visibility into your gross margins, so you can make proactive, informed decisions that enable your business to grow and thrive. Aspire Software, the most comprehensive business management software for commercial cleaning companies.
Nice commercial message. So thank you for that, Aspire. Okay, our panelists, it looks like the same people on your live video feed right there. Jill Fry is the president and CEO of Cummins Facility Solutions. Jill, welcome. Looking forward to having you on today.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for the invite.
You bet. And Holly Borrego is the head of cleaning products and performance at ISS Facility Services. And Holly is an expert at football. If anyone has a football question, she's actually related to a former referee. So I shouldn't have said that, Holly. I mean, now you're going to get questions not about this webinar.
He was a good referee too.
I bet he was. And Mike Sawchuk, the owner of Sawchuk Consulting. Mike is, like many, has contributed to our brands over the years, and we appreciate your time, Mike, bringing some expertise as well to this webinar.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
And in the chat feature, we see the restoration strategies link is there. Feel free to use that anytime. But I would like you to look at this first chat question we have for everyone. We're going to start off with getting a thought from you, because there could be a topic that we don't have planned to cover, but maybe it's something that's important to you. So put in the chat feature either now or in the next few minutes what you would like to learn from this webinar. And all of our panelists can see the chats. We've all used it. So be sure to add that in there. Some of you might have the same challenges as others, but there could be something unique that others would go, oh yeah, I face that sometimes as well. I need help with that. So that's what that's for. Our first official topic, let's move on to that. Critical elements of a successful building service contractor. What are these elements and how do you build on them? So that's kind of an open-ended topic, but let's start with that one. And Jill, let's go to you to get us going. What would you say some of these are to you? Because you run a successful company.
Thanks, Jeff. I think you just hit the nail on the head, right? My biggest fear is I wake up some morning and some terrible thing happened and my reputation just went out the window, right? I mean, it all happens overnight. So I think the most important part is doing your homework, getting your background checks, hiring the right people, putting the right foundations in place, making sure you are doing your best to get that great reputation, getting out there, seeing your clients, seeing your employees, and just, making sure that people are talking good about you. Be kind, be patient, and just remember the spotlight is always on you and your company, right? So just make sure that you're doing the best you can do, and you want to make sure that that reputation is succeeding you. So it's hard sometimes. It's not an easy business, and so that's my only suggestion. Make sure that you feel confident and be proud of yourself. Be proud of your company.
I like that. That's good advice. And it could be totally ignored by a company and they wonder what's going on. We see it, don't we?
Yeah.
Holly, what would you add to that?
I agree, obviously, with everything that Jill just said. And I think, starting out with an accurate bid, and I think the hiring and the training of your personnel have got to be at the top. I think it's so critical that we train and care for our employees, because the only way to really deliver that consistent service that gets you that good reputation is to take care of the people that are delivering the service. And so I think that would probably be my biggest one.
Yeah, I know we'll talk about people in detail in a little bit, but that's right. Your team does matter. Now, Mike, you work as a consultant in the industry, and I imagine you've talked to many companies and done a lot of coaching. What would you say to this?
Well, as Jill and Holly said, and what resonated with me is the focus on having that right foundation and the right people. And I view it as a third bucket is the leadership. And it's like a chain. The chain is as strong as its weakest link. And it's not what you get good at that's going to determine how well you're going to do. It's what you're weakest at. So you really need strong leadership, which is, again, we know different than management. You need those good people, how to find them, how to keep them, how to develop them. And then you need that right foundation. And that's really your products, procedures, protocols, and policies in place.
Good advice. Anything else to add from anybody before I move on? All right. Here's a good one. I've heard more about company culture in the past couple of years than ever, and I've been around a while. So company culture. We have 3 points there we could discuss. I'm not going to read those. We can all see them. But Mike, let's start with you on this. What do you think about this topic, and what can we do to make company culture have a payoff for the company?
Well, it's again, it's critical. It's more critical today than it ever was. Given how difficult it is to find good people, we're all seeing we just can't find the numbers, and you can maybe hire bodies, but they may not be the right fit. Also, that you got to recognize that your ability to differentiate, we talked about that, is going to be, based on your people. Your people cannot give great service if you don't have the great people that get the great development, etc. So your people will determine your ability and how well you're able to differentiate. So that is critical. And the culture has to be measured. And then you should be looking for high levels of engagement, empowerment, trust, and respect. So there's a science and an engineering to it, but it is critical and will become more critical moving forward. At the end of the day, if you don't have people, or you can't find enough people, how are you going to grow your business? Or how do you keep your customers if you aren't able to have the people strategy figured out?
Yeah, good points. Good thoughts. And Holly, what do you think? Have you seen changes over the years, good or bad?
I have. I don't know that I've seen changes as much as I've seen good companies and bad. I mean, I started in this industry as a part-time restroom cleaner and was so lucky to work for such phenomenal companies, owners that gave me such tremendous opportunities. And I think to create the culture that we all seek, it's give people opportunities to, move up through the organization and not just in and out. I think it's critical. Everybody on my team has been in the industry for decades, and they all started, not very high up in any organization. And I think that's how you create a good culture, is make it one that people can actually consider a career.
Thank you. And Jill, you've never talked about company culture ever.
Well, I mean, right, you get that quote, culture eats strategy for breakfast. I mean, you think about that, and if this it all goes out the window. But of course, culture has always been so important, and especially right now when we can't find people. And it's those people that we depend on that have been with us for so many years that know, how to make that client happier, to know how to get that job done, and it's going to be perfect. And you just wish you had like 100,000 of them, right? You just wish you could just grow them. So and that's what you have to do. You have to grow those people. You have to train them. You have to teach them, what we're expected at the company. And Holly's right. I mean, there's a lot of old school, right? We're a lot of old school people here. The next generation, they're different. Not a lot of people wake up and say, I want to clean a toilet, right? So how do we respect them and be kind to them and get them into our industry and just reward them so we can create that culture for them and they do want to stay in our industry, because once it's in your blood, you're not, in my opinion, you're not leaving, right? You want to be that um servant heart, and you want to reward people and you take care of people. So it's finding those people and grooming them, and it's a hard job, but Mike is correct. It's never been more important, and it's never going to be more important in the future. So something we got to really figure out and make it work.
Yeah. The comments about finding those good people and where are they? That's our next topic. So let's dig into that a bit, because this comes up all the time. But instead of just talking about hiring people, the question is, how do you focus on organizational excellence, profitability, growth, and sustainability when hiring? So we're not just hiring a pulse, we're hiring something else. And I think it's time to start with Holly on this one. You want to get us going?
Sure. I think, for this, I mean, I cannot say enough about, the point at which you hire someone and understanding, what they're wanting. And you really have to build a program around what they want. So I think to create a winning team, you have to understand what their expectation is and then build them a plan to be able to achieve their goals. Because if you don't, again, it just becomes the turnover cycle. So for me personally, when I bring someone in, I like to understand, what do you love to do? What do you hate to do? Because I want to keep you on what you love and keep you away from what you hate, and then build that trajectory for the career that they're seeking. I think you have to have that plan in place to really, if you're really a people-centric organization.
Mike, I'm going to move on to you next, but I do want to comment on this picture a little bit, because I was thinking when we chose this, that's probably your old traditional way of interviewing. Everyone comes in, you sit down, you wait to get talked to. I just don't see that as being a modern way of finding the people. And Holly, your comment about getting to know them, that's not probably from a quick moment or two. That's talking. and getting to know them in a better way. Mike, what do you think?
Well, as the question says, profitable growth, sustainability. How are you going to do that without people? How are you going to get new customers? How are you going to keep your existing customers without the ability to find, keep, and develop good people, better people than your competition? And if you're not able to do that, you're setting yourself up for disruption. And I think the key is really, as was said, know what to hire for. It's not just a crapshoot. Is okay. Who comes in? Are you hiring for skills or are you hiring for attitude? What's more important to you? And I advocate you hire for attitude, traits, and DNA over skills and experience. If you get the right people with the right attitude, ability to learn, desire to learn, etc., you could train them the rest of it. So know what to hire for. Simply don't hire for skills and experience. And then when you are hiring for attitude and DNA, you just got to, fundamentally, people are motivated by one of three ways. It's a career, it's a job to pay, or they want to serve. Not one is the only driving force, but people are made up of one stronger than the other. So really, in our industry, if you could find people that want this to serve, so like the ones that join the military or the local fire department, police department, they want to give back to the community, and that's really what you're looking for. They join our industry. Are they wanting to serve? Are they wanting to clean? If they're motivated by the paycheck, then they're going to leave for a bigger paycheck, etc. So it's a combination. And then, as Holly said, know that person, because not everybody's going to be exactly the same, and you've got to treat them differently. There's not one horse for every course. You've got to have an arsenal of things to attract, to motivate, and to lead.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And Jill, what do you have to say?
Hi, and Holly, she just said it's so great, right?
Okay.
When you're hiring somebody, you're hiring that whole person. That whole person is coming in. You get everything with them, right? You just don't get them from 9 to 5. You get them from 8 to 12, right? Everything that comes with them, their family. And you got to love that person. You got to work together, and you just got to get to know each other and just build on that. But I think something that is very important to creating a winning team is we just got recertified with our Sims. It was our 5th time for getting recertified. So we have been Sim certified for 10 years now. And it is a game changer for us, right? There's so many points in there that teaches you how to, make sure that you have profitability and growth and sustainability, and all those things are really hit in Sim. So that's a standardization, right? That we have 10 regional offices. I mean, Holly's company is huge, right? Once you get to a point and you have all these different areas, and how do you keep that same level of responsibility? So for us, I think Sims has been really important, and it helps us stay on track with all the different offices and all the different locations and all the different people. And so that's been good for us.
Yeah, I learned about Sims when I came on with ISSA, which Sims is part of ISSA, and lots of people talk about it, and it works, and it's a great competitive move. So any of you that are watching this and are not part of the Sims program, that certification, we can answer those questions later, provide you information after the webinar. Just reach out to myself or any on the ISSA team. Carrie Dreyer put a comment in the chat. I don't know if you saw that. I think it's kind of interesting. What can we do collectively to influence the younger generations and open their perspective to joining this industry? We often work in our own little world, right? Is there a comment to that from any of our panelists?
I mean, for me personally, I think it's getting them involved in the technology in the industry. And I know that that's easier said than done, but I do believe that there's a lot of technology that's evolving. There's a lot of older people leaving. They kept a lot of things kind of close to the vest. Was not a lot of knowledge sharing. I think there's so many ways that we can get them involved in testing products, and just different, the IoT portion of it. As Jill said, the Sims, getting Sims certified, different things like that. I think there's so many different avenues that we can get them involved in that will help, keep them interested in the business. But yeah, emptying trash cans all day, you're right. They're probably not going to be interested, but I think there's a lot of room in the technology area.
Yes.
In addition to the technology, I was put forward just the fact that what we're doing in our industry, we are helping save lives. We are helping people stay, safer and healthier. That's what we're doing. And I've argued for years that we're just as important as doctors, nurses, paramedics, fire department, et cetera, that it's sometimes too late. We could prevent a lot of those illnesses, trips and falls, et cetera. So I think that we need to start to let people understand, no, you're not coming in with your bull brush to clean toilets. You're coming there to help keep this facility cleaner, healthier, and safer. You are important, and what you do is important. That if we could get into their mindset, they start believing that, and especially if that's with that person that wants to serve, wants to give back to the community. And so they'll know they're not a cleaner. They're out there helping save lives and keeping people healthier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like a combination of both of those answers. I mean, they're both great answers, but I think we as business owners have to look at our environment, right? Because our environment for the young people is going to have to change because their environment is not used to, working 9 to 5 and that traditional office work. They have a different code of conduct. They have a different office that they want to see. They have a different job that they want. They have different values, right? So if we can embrace those, I think that we can, help start with that. And then I actually did a hackathon in Milan in May. And it was all college students. And we asked them, it was 6 different colleges. And we asked them to, take a look at our industry and tell us what they see the future is. They saw the future as plants and robots, right? So they see a lot of plants in buildings, right? Cleaning the air, bringing that natural aspect to our industry, and then robots. So I loved that. And I think it was a combination of what Holly and Mike said, right? We are cleaning for health and we're bringing technology into it. So I think the young generation, I hope, will embrace what we do because we need them to embrace it. It's so important for, the next generations, as we saw with the pandemic. It's not,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion, not the last pandemic. So I think they're going to be there. I think they're going to just love what we do, and I think they're going to make it so much better. That's what I hope.
Agreed. In fact, coming up in a couple of days, I have the privilege of interviewing a facility manager, custodial manager, in an organization that has a scholarship program for young people where they can work on the custodial staff in school with a job afterwards, and it works for them. So I don't know if that would work for everybody, or that's a school, but the thought of using that enticement with the young ones and bringing them in.
Yeah.
But we talked about a few moments ago robotics and technology, and I think that is a key. In fact, as we go to our next point, that's our next chat question, because what we want to hear from you is, are you using this type of technology, not just to get the work done, but maybe to make it more enticing to a younger workforce? So robotics, Jill, you mentioned that. So you kind of lit up when you talked about that, when you see that, and the
Yeah.
plants,
Yeah.
AI. Yeah.
Yeah. IoT, I mean, smart buildings, smart cities, smart retail, it's here. If you haven't heard about it, started to figure it out, that's something you should probably head towards. Um, my favorite quote for this is progress, not perfection. It's
Mm-hmm.
coming. We need it. Our labor shortage is here. It's crazy. Um, I don't think they're ready yet, but we're close. And I'm so excited that there's so many opportunities out there for robotics, and so many companies have taken that challenge on, right? And you see it in different countries, and it's just so fun that, yeah, people really want to invest in our industry, right? We were the ones that nobody ever wanted technology in, and now everybody wants to give us technology, and I'm so thrilled about it. So, yeah, I mean, you can see my passion, but I'm excited to hear what Holly and Mike have to say about it.
Well, she said Holly first.
Okay. So kind of to Jay's comment, I think that we are using both. We're using quite a bit of AI and quite a bit of the IoT. And I believe that there are places for the AI. Personally, I'm a huge fan of day cleaning. I think when you talk about how does it take away from the personalized aspect, I think, and what I would love to see is I would love to see one robot operator work at night running robotic vacuums and robotic scrubbers and have everybody else working during the day. I think with this workforce, we're going to have to do something a bit disruptive. And I think it eases everybody away from the impersonal aspect of AI. Also, knock wood, we've never had, any issues with the robotics, but you definitely have to pick the right machines to fit your facility, which I don't think is an easy task, but we are absolutely streamlining. They're becoming, team members, if you will. But I do think what I would personally like to see is moving more of the cleaning to the day side and more of the robot operation to the evening side, and then investing in that kind of techie person to run things at night.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to our next slide, and Mike, you can talk about this as well, because our next slide fits into this. So we've talked about robotics, AI. I have friends of mine who aren't in the industry, but they're like so afraid of some of this. Like, what is AI going to do? We all use it to some degree. If you have a device you talk to and it responds, that's a part of AI. But what do you think, Mike? What about this topic here?
Well, I think, again, taking off from what Jill and Holly said earlier, that it's here to stay. This movement is not going to go away. So if we put our blinders on and say, well, no, I'll just hold my breath and I'll close my eyes and I'm going to stick to the way I've always been doing things, they're going to be disruptive. But it's more than just robotics and AI. And I think that's going to be the scary part. It's this convergence of different things. We mentioned Internet of Things, we mentioned AI, but what about just moving from 4G to 5G, where you got speed and volume, that significant increase? You're moving to things like blockchain technology. The convergence of all these things, nobody really knows how it's going to impact, but it is going to impact the management of facilities out there. And if you're not a FM person, if you're not a BSC today, that's, and I think as Jill said, starting that whole process. There's no read this book and we could be there. You're going to have to take these little steps to get there. And then as Holly said, yeah, you're going to have to, first of all, figure what is your business problem? Don't take on robotics or don't take on, a new technology just for the sake of it because it's a cool thing to do. You must have a business problem, situation that you're trying to resolve. Do your data, get your measurements in place. So here's what before, here's what it is during testing, and here's what it is after the introduction of some sort of robotics or other technology. So you need to do your research. As Holly said, not all robots, not all these technologies are created equal. They all have different costs. They all have different benefits and expenses. You've got to get the data, measure the data, and you've got to involve your people. And I think Holly said is you've got to use your facilities. Don't go to the manufacturer's plant and say, oh, yeah, that's a nice robot. No, you bring it over to my facility with my soil conditions and conditions with my people, and let my people run it and let them be the evaluator of how good it is. So test a variety of different manufacturers and products within those technologies, and trust your people, have them involved in that whole process.
Mm-hmm. As Rosario says, well said, Mike. Good points. Holly, anything to add to that? I know we've talked about this a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand, to Mike's point, what does that area cost you to clean it? And I think what's hard about AI and hard about IoT is there's a chasm between the front line and the management. And I don't think everybody understands how to fit it into the cleaning program or readjust the cleaning program. So I think you really have to have a good grip on your program, what everybody's doing, how they're doing it, how long it takes, so that you can then really optimize. Because you can have savings from IoT, but if your manager doesn't know how to implement it, then you're just spending more money to understand, what your paper costs are. So I think that's probably a big key, for us and what we do, is making sure that the team is actually implementing those savings.
Yeah.
But it goes to the vetting process as well.
Okay. Before we move on, Jill, anything to add?
I love what Holly is saying. There's a lot of tech out there. It's not hard to find. Using AI is super easy. ChatGPT. I mean, we've got people that use that every single day in our offices. What we've done is I do Tech Talk Tuesdays. I've been doing it for about 3 years now, and we bring tech to our frontline cleaners every single week and tell them what's going on. So they are understanding what IoT means. They know what AI is. They know what ChatGPT is, right? I mean, as these frontline cleaners, we don't think that they're smart enough. They are. They are smart enough and they know what's going on. And I think the more we can feed them, the more they can say to me, hey, I had this idea and I think it would work really great, right? And then we're all on that tech page because if we don't start talking tech to them and teaching them what we're expecting of them, they're not going to pick it up and they're not going to learn it.
And Jill, I knew when you
So
talked about your Tech Tuesday, someone would ask the question, how do you do that?
yeah,
So,
so we actually stream. We record the sessions and we actually stream them. Then we send text messages. We have the training. So we have a Cummins University training. We have, all of that is done. And so they're required to do this training to, for their education skills. And so we spend a lot of time with Cummins TV. So we do a lot branding, but that's our education to getting it out to our employees. Another thing that we just did, I know we're going to hit on this in a second, but with the SIM certification, we had to document how we are training our employees. And so we went actually to a DocuSign session. And so then every time an employee would get the training, they would have to sign off on it that they got it and it was time stamped. And that was a really important thing for SIMS that, the employee did learn it and we had proof that they saw that. But yeah, I love making sure that our employees are knowing what's going on because it's important for us to learn and our executive team to learn, our leadership team to learn, but we got to push that out right to that front line because they're the ones that are actually doing that technology and they can see that technology working. So I think that the more you can push out to them, the more you can train them, the more you can teach them what's going on. I think that's really important.
yeah, good information. For time's sake, we have to move on. We have a couple more points before we get into our questions. And balancing budget and revenue discussions with reality. What does that do to a company when there's so much focus on the revenue and maybe not the quality and the company culture? Holly, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I think this is a dangerous area. I think too many decisions can be made by the finance folks that are not in touch with the field and the client. And I understand that they're there to make a number, but I often feel that the operational voice is not heard enough. And so I think, you hire the best and then you let them run with it, right? And I think if there was a little bit more of that, and a little bit more understanding of how the technologies can save money, and really impact your bottom line. I think if there was more listening done by the finance team, I think it would go a long way. At least that's my experience.
That's good points. Mike?
Well, taking up for what Holly said is I believe that the issue really is you need to have a true north of that company. So are we the low ball people going after everything, et cetera? And then you hire people, you train them, and so they're accepting that is what our company's about. That's how we go to market. The problem sometimes where you get this company culture is when you say, oh, we're this, that, and the other thing in terms of your mission statement, your vision statement. You put that out into your propaganda from the leadership. So they're sending one message, and then the real world is, no, we don't do that. No, we're just going to go after this type of business, and all of a sudden they're going after that. So it's really important to have a true north that's very clearly saying, this is our mission, this is our vision, these are our core values, and this is the type of business we go after, and then making sure that nobody is an exception. So if you got core values of this and you have some person that's not living up to those core values, even though they're your best operations manager, your best sales manager, you need to say, no, sorry, you're not fitting in. You have to let them go. If you don't have really measure and monitor that true north, then what you have is counterfeit. And that's what people see. And that's what I believe harms company culture. They join for one reason, and the reality of the company is something different. And as Holly said, they may have joined because they want operational excellence and they're going to allow me to be this operational leader, yet the culture of the company is no, finance is the one that dictates, and finance is really running our company. There you have the disconnect. So you can have a company that's really run by finance people, as long as the people that join the company want that, or operational people, and they're consistent with that true north. There's no one right true north. You just have to have a true north, and everybody's got to know what it is, and everybody's got to be held to that one true north. That's my thought.
Good thought. And Jill, wrap it up for us, then we'll move on to our next point.
I just think it's good to have balance. Can't always be negative on the nonprofits, or can't be too positive. You just have to have that balance in there. Just make sure everybody's riding the wave smooth. And that's my opinion. Can't be too hard, can't be too soft.
Okay. Thank you. Our next topic might take a couple minutes, so let's get into that, because isn't this a conversation we have, or thoughts all the time, from running a company to managing it? Or is it the other way around? What do you think? Jill, start us off.
Oh, thanks. I love this question. So I've been running my company for about 20 years. 4 years ago, I stepped away as day-to-day operations, opened up a global consortium and 2 technology companies in the industry. So I have truly let my employees and my executive team run, and I've been working on my business and not in my business. It was the best thing I ever did. My employees are fantastic. They like to work and they don't like to be micromanaged. So, just keep the black and white. This is what you need to be. This is an area. They have exceeded all of my expectations. They come to me with ideas now, right? I mean, love on your employees, love on your executive team. Let them show you what they can do. They're very talented people. And that's been one of my biggest lessons. But it's been great. And now they all love technology and we're one big happy family. So I think this is the Bible. Preach it.
Yeah. All the companies I talk to where the owners are working on the company, doing the daily grind, they talk about wanting to do this, but it doesn't happen. So maybe that's the way that you talked about it there, Jill. And Mike, I know this information, this slide is one that you wanted to talk on, especially when you think about the value multiplier and the legacy. So why don't you share a couple thoughts?
Well, I think Jill, was right on. You have to be in that position to be able to trust your employees that when you're gone, they're going to make all those right decisions. They may not make the same decisions or get to the decision the same way you did, but who cares? It's important that they're developed, and that's what that's thinking and intelligence are 2 different things. It's that whole process. So you've got to develop those employees. So saying that, it's when you start off as a BSC, it's pretty easy to go out there and get some business. So you hustle, you get some customers, and you're doing the work, and it's easy to find a few people. But as your company gets larger and larger, it's more difficult to find and keep profitable customers, and it's more difficult to find and keep good employees. So over time, what you really got to have to do is add that discipline, and that we talked about, and that Jill mentioned at the very first beginning, structure and process. And Holly mentioned that with all the different locations, you sort of need them to all be working that same. That's what, the foundation, structure and process. So over time, what you really got then need to do, I can't be involved with everything, because if you want to impact your multiplier, they say, Jill is responsible for all this. Well, what happens to if Jill leaves? Why would I pay a higher multiplier for Jill's company when the company's so reliant on Jill or somebody else within the group? So then as a leader, you need to start figuring, okay, we don't want to be relying on one customer or one segment or any one person, including me. And that takes what we said earlier, discipline to say, no, I'm going to develop the people. I'll take some time off. I'll live with the results. I know they're great people. They're not going to make crazy decisions, and move forward. Then you're going to have a company, well, not only sustainable, but is going to give you a real good multiplier when you decide to sell or pass it on to your employees, or pass it on to your to family members. And I think, and at the end of the day, feel good that you developed this successful company. You're helping so many families, so many people in their livelihoods. And that's really the legacy of that, Jeff.
Good points. And Holly?
I think just you know, my thought process has always been, you know, treat it like it's a classroom, right? I mean, your employees are the students, are the ones that do the work. You teach them how to do it. It helps them to grow and um, you know, create a better life for themselves. But just, you know, take it from the standpoint of you're there to make sure they are successful. They're not there to make sure we are. We're there to make sure they are. So just, you know, let them do it and then help them fix whatever they might have done wrong.
Yeah. Imagine that they respect that, knowing that role and how they're treated well. Let's move into our last point. We're going to do an open mic opportunity for our panelists to share maybe a final thought that they'd like to share. And it could be based on what we've already talked about, or maybe some of the comments in the chat. And then we'll get into our Q&A for the last 15 minutes. So we might go a few minutes over today so we can cover all your questions. But let's start with Holly on this.
There was actually a good question in here for I don't know if you saw that or not, but um, so for, I guess, the outside of the box, I would say for me, it goes back to basics. It's not really outside of the box. It's if your people have too many things to concentrate on, it becomes chaotic. I think if you keep them grounded with, you know, 5 things that they should be doing to be successful in their job every day, and make sure that if they're not doing those things every day, they stop and get back to doing one of those things. And I think it's incredibly simple, but it's incredibly effective. That just make sure they're concentrating on the things they're supposed to do to be successful.
I like that. It's may seem simple, but isn't it what's missing many times? You go into a restaurant or a place to do business and the customer service is terrible. It's like how it's such a simple thing to think about, but no one's doing what used to be done in the past. So, okay, let's get your thought, Mike.
Well, reiterating what's been said, it's a great industry filled with great people on all ends, on the service side, distribution side, and manufacturing side. And many have been wildly successful in it. You know, unfortunately, a lot have not. A lot, they're a BSC, been a BSC for 20, 30 years, but it's really a job for them. Now, why? Why are some so successful and others are not? And I really believe the opportunity is there for everybody to be extremely successful. You know, and I encourage people to figure out to be the one that seizes and drives the success for yourself, your team, your family, your employees, and your customers, because the opportunities are there.
Thank you. And Jill, it's Tech Tuesday. You get the final word.
Jeff, you've got like the best panelists here. I mean, like they're awesome. I just want them to be my new BFFs. Like they're fantastic.
You can do that. You can do that.
Yeah, I love them. They're so spot on. My biggest reminder, I mean, Holly was right. Pick 5 things, right? Focus on those 5 things. One of those 5 things has got to be your P&L, your profit and loss. You've got to look at your P&L. I don't care if you have 1 account, if you have 80,000 accounts. You have to look at that P&L and make sure you're making money. We're all in this business to make money. If you're not making money, you got to get out. It's not worth it. So even if you're making a little money, right? But you just have to be making money. So just please make sure that you're looking at that P&L, or you've got people that are looking at that P&L. You're paying your taxes. You're doing all the things that you need to do to be that foundationally strong company. Build those foundations first and then build on it. Mike is right. There's so much opportunity out there, and there's going to be more and more and more opportunity. But you just got to make sure that every day, right? You're looking at your bottom line. Every day you're paying your people right. You've got that quality control aspect into your I mean, there's more than 5 things, right? But Holly's correct. You can only work on those 5 things. But in my opinion, that number 1 thing is someone's got to be watching the P&L. Either it's you, your controller, whoever it is. You know, that's something that in this industry, you got to make sure you're doing.
Thank you. Well, let's move into the final part of our webinar. Again, we wanted to invite everyone to join our family, so take advantage of that in our programming with ISSA. But let's do some questions. You 3 ready for a final quiz or 2? So
Sure.
Okay, what we've received from the audience, here's one. What pain points are challenging for BSCs in the current market? And the main point is, do you have any concerns about the distressed commercial real estate market?
I'll
Okay, who's
start
taking
off
it?
and, sorry, Jill, go ahead.
Okay, my opinion, don't stick all your eggs in one basket, right? Don't go into the commercial real estate market. You need to diversify hospitals, schools, manufacturing, industrial, right? Always, in my opinion, have all those things in your repertoire. It'll come back. If it doesn't, it'll be something else that we can service. So there's no labor there, we got to figure that out. So that's something that, in my opinion, is a struggle right now.
And Mike, you were going to add to that?
Well, Jill mentioned what I said. The biggest pain point has to be finding, keeping, developing people, and more important, the good people, the right people. That is a current pain point. The other one I think out there is, and Jill again touched upon it, is we need to balance that differentiation and specialization. You can't be seen as jack of all trades, because at the end of the day, people want to hire specialists. They want to say, I'm hiring you because you know this business as well or better than I do. So you've got to find, differentiate, but find other markets. But it's really, I think a lot of BSCs struggle with how they differentiate. You start looking at their website, you look at their material, you look at their bid submissions. If they take their name out of it, it would be, thousands of companies. They all sound and look the same. And I think that's a challenge for them to really become better at differentiation.
Okay. And Holly, do you want to add to that, or?
Yeah, I just would say one man's trash is another man's treasure, right? So if everyone's kind of moving away from that, it is the easiest work in the industry. So I think if you can differentiate yourself, to Mike's point, and inject some of the technology to lure some of the people into the industry that we want to see, I think you could clean house in this area. So I think it's an opportunity.
Very good. One man's trash is another man's treasure. All right. Here's a question that is interesting. How do you figure out supplies when making a proposal for a facility with 60 people? Do you base it on the number of people or by the square feet of the facility? Boy, oh boy, I don't want to answer that one. Do we have an answer, or should we skip it and get back later to that person?
No, I mean, I can take a stab at
Okay,
it if nobody objects. So the way I do it is I do it depending on the supplies. I mean, if they're wanting seat covers and urinal screens and the whole 9 yards, you kind of tend to price that out. But you can either do it by a cost per person, which can be, again, that's a big wide range, or you can do it by, a lot of the paper companies will supply you with the information as to, and it obviously also depends on the vertical, and airport's way different than an office building. I know you know that, but how much each person uses per trip. I think it's 18 inches of paper towel and somewhere, double that on toilet paper, but cut it in half for men and women. I mean, they have all those calculators for foam soap, regular liquid soap. So reach out to your distributors and reach out to your paper suppliers, because they can definitely help you with that, because it is a big problem. My personal opinion, charge them cost plus, mark it all up 10% and be done with it.
Who says there's no science in this industry?
Right?
That's a great, Holly did a great job. I mean, that's very detailed. I normally, for chemicals and things like that, I do 2 to 3%. So that's a percentage that sometimes we do from the bid that is an option too. But Holly nailed it. So
yeah, I liked it. Good comments. Mike, if you have nothing there, I'll move on to the next question. You good?
Nothing else.
Okay. All right. Yeah, how do you top that? I mean, that's good stuff. Okay, here's another one from our audience. What's your take on the growing preference for hybrid remote work, which would affect the buildings you're cleaning? What's your take? What do you think? Jill, you first?
Oh, I love this question. Okay. So this is technology coming through, right? This is IoT coming through. If you've got your indoor air quality sensors, if you know how many people are in the building, you can start predicting what days they're in the building. Is it Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? Probably. So maybe you pull those day porters on Monday, Fridays, right? You just make them come in on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. What if it's the Friday after Thanksgiving? Who's coming into work? Well, if you look back in your data, you're going to understand how much labor you need. So hybrid is a very good opportunity, in my opinion, when something changes in the building. That's when you as a BSC can pounce and say, hey, let's change this bid around. What can we do, right, to increase our pricing? Maybe you add some technology in there, right? Maybe you add some data points for that building. So hybrid, in my opinion, is not going away. It's here to stay. So how do you change your business model to reflect that?
Good thoughts. Holly or Mike, anything to add to that?
Jill nailed it. And as an example, I had one client and they couldn't find people for their healthcare setting. So we start talking about it and use Jill's example. Turns out that a lot of people had to use the bus service, and there wasn't actually bus service in certain times of day. But not too far down from the road was low income housing. So we talked and said, why don't you try to attract them? They got children. They're probably looking for extra money. It's walking distance to the facility. And the only compromise was, and what Jill said, well, we only have a start of 7 o'clock. I said, why? Have some people start earlier or later. So they were able to accommodate people that could come in, do 2 or 3 hours work. And after the kids went to school, go back home when the kids were there, maybe for lunch, and then come back to work. So that's really looking at it as an individual, but using it to your advantage to be able to find the people in this difficult market.
Very nice. And Holly, anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's you've really got to dig down and work with both your client and your employee base to be able to have that kind of hybrid model. That's where I think AI can help. That you maybe have them. You can't really change from 15 to 12 people a day, but I think if you have that 12 person and then augment the other 3 through robotics or some type like that, or 4 10s instead of the 5 8s. I think there's different ways to achieve it.
We have a couple of business questions or how to get job questions. So I don't know who wants to handle this to start. Kind of an open-ended question. What suggestions do you have for bidding and estimating so you land more contracts? Joe, you're scratching your head.
I'm so good at this, but I'm going to take a stab and she can correct me and supplement with my answer here. But something that I do, I'm old school, I'm small, right? I'm in the smaller rural areas. Holly's probably in the bigger, larger cities. If I'm going into an area that I don't know what's going on, I tend to look at like the Indeed ads, like what's going on in that area in terms of how people are hiring. If you look on their janitorial positions open, you're going to see how much people are paying, what areas they're hiring for, and that's going to give you a real good clue. Some of those Indeed and stuff can even show you what the monopolizers are, who's in that area working already, right? You'll know the companies there, your competition. So in my opinion, every area is different when you're bidding and estimating it with labor, right? Labor 70% of our bids. So that's going to be the biggest chunk. So understanding what your labor is in that area is going to really give you an advantage to bidding that correctly. Holly, what else would you do?
Well, for me, I always say start with giving the janitors enough hours to do the work, but it still has to be competitive. So you really have to understand your productivity rates. You really have to understand the tools and how that's going to affect your cleaning plan. 1,000% agree. I'm on Indeed every day looking at that, understanding the unemployment rate in a region. I think all of that is key, but I think you have to give them the right amount of hours to be able to do the work. And you have to be able to sell to that too. If someone's just looking for low bid, we're out. That's not our, kind of to Mike's earlier point, that's not our wheelhouse. We're not here to just give you, get in the mud. So anyway, I think the workloading is essential.
Okay. And Mike, I know you had something to add to this.
Take from a more macro perspective, I say you got to do the research. You need to understand who's in there now, what are they doing right, what are they doing not so right, et cetera. Read the bid. Do you have any contacts in the business? Number two is differentiate. So when you do a proposal, it's got to look and sound different than anybody else. So that takes a lot of effort. Thirdly is use their language. So you need to understand what they're asking for and put it right back to them. So it sounds like, like a consultant work that you're giving back what they already asked for, and only go after opportunities that are right for you and your people. I can't reiterate it too much. If you're not going to be profitable at it, or that's not really what you're good at, that's not your wheelhouse, take a walk, because there's other opportunities there. So don't spend so much time filling out all these bids. Focus your time on ones you're going to win, and it's going to be profitable business for you and allow your company to grow.
All great points. And a thumbs up just happened. So that's good. Okay. Same kind of thought here in a way about not bidding and estimating, but what do you do to keep your clients when they're being approached by cheap competitors of yours? You've got good clients out there, but there's always a lower price knocking on the door. Let's start with Holly this time.
I think you have to be managing your business. So understanding, I mean, and when I ran a large market in the Midwest, our clients were getting hit 9 times a week. So I think you have to operate like your client is in front of your competitor almost every day. You have to bring the information to them. You have to manage up, so to speak, right? Do quarterly business reviews. Make sure you're taking data to them, industry news. Make sure that you're showing them the job that you're doing and the value that they're getting. Don't leave it to them to figure it out, or someone to come in and charm them, make them look another way. Make sure you're in front of them.
Good points.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Sorry, Jeff.
No, go ahead. This isn't a schoolroom. You can talk.
Totally agree with what Holly's saying, and I think that leads to technology too, right? I mean, that's your software platform that's showing when your employees clocked in, when they clocked out, that they were really on site on those times. What you're doing to help them with their paper products, their supply products. If there's lower prices out there that you can get as a bigger supplier, right? Buying more. Can you differentiate? Can you start selling them salt or different aspects to their business, what they need? And what is your differentiator? What is your game changer? Because Mike said, take the name off, we're all pretty much the same company. What makes you different? Take what makes you different and apply that and show it to your clients so they can see the value.
And I think the last point, Jeff, would be you need what Holly and Jill said. It starts with knowing a great understanding of what the customer wants. What are their needs, wants, and desires? Don't give them what you want. Don't give them what you think they want. You really got to, and every customer is a little bit different. So, if they don't want a Ferrari delivering pizza for them, well, then you don't give them that Ferrari. You give them that Ford Focus. So it has to start with the client, understanding what they want, and then tailor making your offering to deliver that. And then the other thing Jill mentioned, sensors. I'm a big advocate of using sensors. So if the customer says, well, you got to clean it, that washroom 5 times a shift. If you had sensors that shows that no one enters that washroom after the third and fourth, for the third, fourth, and fifth cleaning, or the fourth and fifth cleaning, well, that's where you could reallocate that labor into other things. So use the technology to give the customer what they want, eliminate their pain points, and do it through their eyes, not through your eyes or your ops eyes.
Yeah, can I answer a question really fast? This is from Victoria Cardana. She says, is it realistic idea to move to another bigger city to give your business more chances of succeeding? Victoria, my name's Jill Fry, and my office is in Waldo, Ohio. Where's Waldo? Right? I heard that a lot. So Mike said there's a ton of opportunity. There's a ton of opportunity wherever you are. So I would not relocate, in my opinion. Holly, she does a lot of big cities. I'm in a lot of small cities. I'm rural. So there's benefits to both, but you can be a big player too from a small city. So I know you can do it, girl. Show me you can do it.
I interviewed Jill for a program and she talked about Waldo, and I'm like, there's a Waldo, Ohio. I live in Ohio. I'm right in the middle of it. So, Holly, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I worked for a small regional company before I came to work for a big international company, and we were in every single city in the state of Missouri. We had 5 offices just in Missouri. So there is more business around you than you can shake a stick at. And just to give you an idea, the top 5 companies, which include ABM and a host of others, in this industry only have 4% of the total market share. So that ought to give you an idea of how much is out there.
It's a big world.
World.
Well, I think we're at a good stopping point. We're a little over time, but thank you everyone for sticking with us, all the participants, Mike, Jill, Holly. What a great session. And this recording will be available on cmmonline.com in a few days. And everyone who's at this webinar will get an email with that recording. So, and there'll be some follow-up as well. We'll try to get to all the questions that we received that we couldn't answer. And we have our 3 experts here who are willing to share, as you could tell during our webinar today. But thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Happy holidays. Thank
Yeah,
you
happy
so much,
holidays.
Jill, Holly, and Mike. You guys are amazing. Fun webinar. Loved it.
So are you. Thank you.
Awesome.
Oh,
Take
hey,
care.
Mike, I think we should do this every year and focus on the next year. What do we think is going to happen in
Sounds good.
next year?
I'm going to put it on my calendar. You said it, Jill.
All right, you guys are the best. So
Right.
fun. I loved it. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.